¿Te acuerdas en el film?
Yo lo llevo en amarillo. Está chulo, very brave. Đêm này vô lấy
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching in the world, and a warm welcome to Qatar. Welcome to the Lusail International Circuit, and welcome to MotoGP 2024. Yes, folks, the greatest motorsport show on earth is back, and what a year lies in store as MotoGP celebrates its 75th anniversary since it all began back in 1949. Time really does fly when you're having fun, doesn't it? Pecco Bagnaia and Ducati, of course, looking to maintain their dominance and go for a hat-trick of MotoGP titles. There'll be fireworks aplenty as Marc Marquez joins a star-studded Ducati lineup. And believe the hype. Rookie sensation Pedro Acosta, the shark smelling some Premier class blood as he moves onto the big stage. Throwing a bunch of rising stars and young hotshots in Moto2 and Moto3. And 2024 is all set up to be a blockbuster season. It's all coming your way over the next 8 months or so. Delighted and honoured to say myself, Matt Burt and Lewis Sotheby will be talking you through all the enthralling action with Simon Crafar bringing us, as always, unrivaled analysis and insight from in the box and down in pit lane. And as always, as you can see live here in Qatar on your screens right now, we kick off the new season with the traditional class photos for Moto3, Moto2 and MotoGP. The MotoGP photo shoot due to be underway at around 6:45 p.m. local time here in Qatar. That's when the bikes will be on the grid. We hope the rides will be joining us about 15 minutes later. But for the time being, let's get our first glimpse into the future as we cast an eye over the class of 2024 in Moto3. A grid that's certainly stacked full of talent, beginning what they hope ultimately one day is the first steps to destination MotoGP. Fair to say there's been an exodus of some top talent as well in 2024. Current world champion Jaume Masia, who won the championship here, of course, 4 months ago under the night lights in Qatar. He is expecting a new challenge in Moto2 this year. Ayumu Sasaki also moving up to Moto2. We'll cover off all that shortly, though. Lewis, as always, we take you into a new season. It is great to be back. And as we mentioned, especially for MotoGP, the 75th anniversary, and what a year lies in prospect.
Yeah, good evening to you, Matt. Good evening to everyone watching around the world. It does feel like the first day at school, and it feels like the first day of a special season, not just for the milestones that you've already alluded to as we celebrate 75 years of Grand Prix racing. This has the feeling of a special season. Storylines everywhere you look in the Premier class. Of course, a new dawn in the intermediate and lightweight classes too. Moto3 so often entertains us from the first lap to the final meters of the final lap. We're expecting no different this season. These are the faces that will be headlining MotoGP in years to come. Their goal this year, though, is to taste Moto3 title glory.
Yes, some familiar face I'm sure many of you watching at home will recognise as David Alonso comes to the photo shoot just out the bottom left-hand corner of your screen's big pre-season favourite in 2 MotoGP press conferences that have just taken place here in Qatar. Everybody's hot pick. Pecco Bagnaia, Marc Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi, Jorge Martin, all going for the exceptionally talented young Colombian, making their Grand Prix debuts here in Qatar this weekend. Well, there's one of them, Jacob Ralston. We also welcome another Spanish teenage hotshot, Angel Piqueras and Joel Esteban. First full seasons in prospect for the likes of Tacho Boisri, Nicolo Carraro, David Almanza, of course, who shone in the rain conditions in Argentina last year, Noah Detweiler and Luca Lunetta. Out has gone the likes of Masia, Sasaki Onju, Moreira and Artegas and Mario Aggi, all in Moto2. We'll see their photo shoot coming up very shortly. But Lewis, going into this new Moto3 season, it's kind of all eyes on one young man for a very good reason. David Alonso, the 17-year-old Madrid-based Colombian. 4 wins in what was a sensational rookie season. No great surprise that he's an overwhelming favourite for glory in 2023.
Well, you've just chaired the 2 pre-event press conferences that we've seen with 6 of the very best of MotoGP in 2024, and it was near unanimous, wasn't it? Apart from Pedro Acosta perhaps keeping his allegiances to KTM at the forefront of his predictions. David Alonso is the red-hot favourite for this season, even if he is no longer riding in red. You will see his new colour scheme very shortly. They're now in the blue CF Moto colours. Still rides for Aspar, of course. Nobody won more Grand Prix last year than David Alonso, and it kind of felt like the crazier Moto3 got, the better David Alonso was. He tended to win those massive bun fights at the end of Grand Prix. Took 3rd in the World Championship, and you feel that if you finish ahead of him this year, the rider immediately on your left there with the big beaming smile, if you finish ahead of him, you won't be too far away from title glory. Middle
of your picture, about now, there he is, the hugely experienced by Moto3 standards, Tatsuki Suzuki, the 26-year-old Japanese rider, scheduled to make his 154th Grand Prix start this week. And in fact, Suzuki, the only rider in this Moto3 pack that's made more than 100 Grand Prix starts in the field, 56 more than the next most experienced rider, which is Stefano Neppa. 5 winners in Moto3 previously. David Alonso, who we have mentioned, Danny Holgado, of course, who did so much of the early running in last year's World Championship, Suzuki, who we just mentioned, Ivan Ortola, and Colin Vio, smack bang in the middle of the picture, just to the right of Tatsuki Suzuki as he sits, and Vio, another rider, Lewis, who's going to be coming into this season with that extra year's experience, already with huge confidence and belief taken from his career first victory last year in Malaysia. He is another one to watch very closely.
Yeah, so often in Moto3, it's the sophomores who often rise to the front. So difficult to win this category as a rookie, despite Pedro Acosta doing that in 2021. So often it's the second season where these riders really step forward, and it is 3 of the sophomores that I think will be among our title favourites. Alonso we've already touched upon, Jose Antonio Rueda, who of course is riding for Red Bull KTM IO, and Colin Vire, who took that dramatic victory in Malaysia last year. Not that it particularly helped his teammate Yumi Sasaki in his pursuit of the title. Those three will be among the title favourites. Everything that we've seen in pre-season testing so far suggests that the majority of the title favourites will be riding a Pira mobility bike.
And a very special moment, a very special photo shoot as well, being undertaken by members of the current Qatar Motorsport Academy, which is great for those budding potential future Moto3 world champions in the future then. So they come to join the grid. If you're basing your picks on who was hot and who was not in winter testing in Moto3, well, the official test in Jerez just a few days ago, well, that was topped by Jose Antonio Rueda for Red Bull KTM, of course, the 18-year-old from Seville, ahead of his second full season in the Moto3 World Championship. Didn't have a great ending to last year. 6th place in the final round in Valencia. Ended a run of 4 races in a row without a point scoring finish. So they're accompanied by the Qatar Motorsport Academy, are your class of 2024 in Moto3. Moto3 is a class that always delivers incredibly close action, isn't it? We saw the world title decided here 4 months ago. Fair to say, a rather controversial race as the Yuma Sasaki hopes were extinguished under the night lights. But now the Moto3 field then depart the grid. I know that Simon Crafar is hovering around down in pit lane. Hopefully Simon, as the Moto3 pack filter back into pit lane, will be able to grab a few interviews. There's Josh Watley, the British rider, in the movie picture now for the newly named MLAV Racing team. Good to see Watley here, Lewis, because it was right here 4 months ago in the penultimate round of 2023 where he suffered a horrendous double open compound fracture of that left leg, and I still think he's certainly got the scars and still limping around the paddock. He's not actually fully recovered just yet, is Watley, and he's had his problems as well injury-wise in pre-season. Yeah,
it got worse than that when he tested at Jerez. Well, I say he tested at Jerez, he did half an outlap and that was it before he had a crash during that official test in the south of Spain. Broke a finger there too, so in 2 respects Josh Watley comes into this first round of the season far from 100% fitness. He's teammates once again with the young Yorkshireman Scott Ogden, who caught up with earlier on today. Fair to say that he's keeping his expectations relatively under control for this first round of the season. As mentioned, it's been a chastening winter for the Honda riders. KTM, Husqvarna, CF Moto, Gas, etc. have certainly stolen a march in pre-season testing. Some of the findings from an aerodynamic point of view in MotoGP seem to have made its way to their Moto3 machine, which has certainly aided them. And it was the Pira Mobility Group bikes that were certainly the class of the field in winter testing. They locked out the top 6 and they were comfortably clear of the rest. Tatsuki Suzuki, you can see there on the left of your screen, this is the first time for all his experience that you alluded to earlier on that he's riding in Moto3 on something other than a Honda.
Yeah, and Suzuki, of course, the highlight undoubtedly last year was his win in the rain conditions at Termas de Rio Hondo. Highlights that were few and far between in 2023 for the 26-year-old Japanese rider. He hasn't raced, of course, in anger since his home round in Japan. He was dumped, wasn't he, by Leopard Honda for the last 6 Grand Prix, replaced by Adrian Fernandez, who certainly gave a helping hand to his teammate Masia here in the battle for World Championship glory. He's photoed, of course, with compatriots Ryusai Yamanaka ahead of his 5th full season. He's going home in many respects, the 22-year-old back to empty helmets MSI KTM after what was a troubled year, it's fair to say, with the Gas Aspar team, a high-profile move which yielded just 1 top 6 finish. And Tayo Furusato, of course, who continues for Honda Team Asia, now a podium finisher in Moto3 after his brilliant performance in Buram. The next step for Furusato and Hiroshi Oyama's squad will be to find their way to the top step in 2024.
His summary of pre-season testing was so-so. When I spoke to him earlier on today, I think that's a polite way of saying it didn't go exactly as I'd hoped. So, as always, there's a real turnover, a real churn of talent in Moto3. Out go Masia, Suzuki, Onchu, Moreira, Artigas and Agi from last year. They're all up to Moto2. Kaito Toba to World Supersport, and we've also lost Romano Fenati, David Salvador, Lorenzo Forlon, Saira Fliasman, Anna Carrasco, and the Prustal GP name. They are no longer a team, which is why we are down a couple of spots on the grid for this season. But the 26 riders that will be battling it out for the Moto3 World Championship will certainly make up for the 2 losses from last year's grid in terms of entertainment. There are 6 Italians on the grid who'll be certainly be looking to put their way towards the front of the grid. Many of them in new colours. Riccardo Rossi on the far left of screens, who found his way onto the Moto3 grid very, very late. He wasn't initially on the entry list when the provisional entry list was announced late last year. Of course, the disappearance of the Bristol GP team at the end of last season left him without a ride. He's picked up the 2nd spot at CIP Green Power alongside one of our rookies, Noah Detwiler. Spoke to him earlier on today, reliably informed by him it's Detwiler, although he's clearly a very relaxed young man. He said, "Call me what you want."
That's what we like to hear. Relaxed ahead of his first full season in the Moto3 World Championship. There is the most experienced man of all, as you mentioned, Tatsuki Suzuki. 26 years of age now, smiling. Big opportunity for him going into the Lucky Moly Husqvarna team. There's your new look Leopard Honda squad for 2024. Staying put, of course, is Adrian Fernandez, who got 6 cracks of the whip at the end of last season, and he is joined by another big star of the future, another big talent in the making, 17-year-old Spaniard Angel Piqueras, who was certainly in the pre-World Championship era set his stall out in spectacular fashion. This is Adrian Fernandez, who's sporting a sort of shaven-headed look, aggressive look going into the new season, but there's a lot of attention on Piqueras. Won last year's Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup with 2 rounds to spare and by a record margin of 115 points, and to boot he won the Junior GP World Championship as well with 4 wins, a slightly smaller advantage of just 82 points. It's fair to say 2023 showed exactly why, Lewis, Piqueras is going to be potentially another big star in the making this year.
A path previously trodden by Jose Antonio Rueda, of course, who did the double the year before. Piqueras had already wrapped up the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Cup by the time we went on our summer breaks last year. He wrapped it up at Assen at the end of June. Piqueras, 18 years of old in December of this year, so he's the youngest rider on the grid. A Valencia boy, so he'll be celebrating his home Grand Prix at the final round of this season. And as you say, he pretty much won everything there was to win in his junior categories last year, both the Junior GP World Championship and the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Cup. Although, we have to say, he does come to this first round also on his back foot. He had a training crash around about 2-3 weeks ago, which cracked a vertebra in his back, so as a result of that he missed the Jerez test, but he has been declared fit to make his debut here this weekend. Yeah, just one footnote, a bit of early housekeeping going into this new season. We have Vicente Perez with us alongside Jose Antonio Rueda at Rebel KTM for the opening 2 Grand Prix of the season. That's because permanent rider Xabi Zurutuza signed as a hot prospect by Akiaio. He's ineligible because he's not old enough at the moment, so he will sit out this opening Grand Prix in Qatar and also our first European stopover, the Tissot Grand Prix of Portugal at the Algarve International Circuit in 2 weeks' time. We will see Zurutuza take his place on the grid when we head stateside for the Austin Grand Prix in early April. Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't quite fulfill the criteria to sidestep the age limit. Luca Lanetta did. He's another of our rookies. He's also 17 years of age, the young Roman. He did make a couple of appearances last season as a wild card for Empty Helmet MSI, but by virtue of finishing in the top 3 of the Junior GP World Championship last year, he was the runner-up to Piqueras Lanetta, the 58 for the 658 Squadra Corsa team. He is able to take part this season from the start. Now that young man, don't worry, he's not gone back to the Moto3 World Championship, but we are getting set, of course, for class photos in all 3 categories. And there we have Ayagura, who's going to be one of the big title contenders. Fascinating to see how Agura gets on, and of course having left the comfort of the team he's been with so many years in Idemitsu Honda Team Asia, and more crucially jumping off a Kalex chassis onto the Boscoscura frame, which absolutely dominated the end of last season. So there's the CF Moto riders. David Alonso on the left of your picture. We have that big smile on his face come Valencia. He's going to be this year's Moto3 World Champion. He will take some stopping. I'm delighted to say for the first time in 2024 we can zip down to pit lane and catch up for the first time and say Happy New Year to our great friend Simon Crafar, who is joined by Bowie Motorsport rider Joel Kelso. Down to you guys, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. I'm hoping the mic works. It's the first time I've used it this year. So Joel, I just had to come and see you. You've got new colours, meaning new teammate as well. Really curious what you're thinking.
First impression's good, mate. First impression of the bike, the team, everything is going smoother at the moment. Yeah, I mean, testing was, how testing is. You just try new things, especially with the new bike. It's like crazily new because it's been a few years it's been frozen. So now, we've got a whole big package there and many things to try. And really at the testing, I was just focusing on trying all the new parts. So then, go to every different race and be ready for any object that gets thrown at us. So, yeah.
That's what testing's all about. Curious, before I let you go, what do you think of this circuit?
Incredible, isn't it? It's one of the best circuits. I mean, best racing for sure as well, like always a massive group, so it's always going to be a good fight in the race, that's for sure.
And last thing, tyres. Big change there.
Big change with the bike, with the tyres, but how the bike reacts with the tyres is another way of riding. It's a completely new style for Moto3, and the way that we need to ride the bike is the hardest thing to understand at the moment is the tyres, and that's probably the biggest thing to change as well, because you've got to change your braking style. You've got to keep flowing more through the corners instead of, punch in and punch out. So it's definitely an object. But, over them 5 days of testing, we started to get the hang of it by the last day. So hopefully in, Friday, tomorrow, we can understand a little bit more and then go faster these tyres.
Thank you, Joel, and best of luck.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Great to hear from you. Also great to hear from Joel Kelso. And great to hear him, of course, confirm a major technical change. A completely different makeup in the Moto3 and Moto2 World Championship this year, because no longer the exclusive tyre supply after many years. Out has gone Dunlop, and we welcome into the lightweight and intermediate World Championship classes exciting times. Pirelli, of course, much of the winter testing has been dedicated to understanding the new tyres. Joel Kelso, just for the record, 15th place he was on the combined standings at the end of the recent Jerez test, which was topped in very impressive fashion by the young man we're watching on screens right now, Gareth Harford, from one of the photographic agencies, getting a shot of Jose Antonio Rueda. Big year for Rueda, Lewis, because at times last year he showed flashes of the brilliance that we know is there, but he faded somewhat towards the back end of last season. A 6 in Valencia certainly salvaged something late on, but I'm expecting big things from Rueda, and not just because of the fact that he was on record pace in Jerez recently. Yeah,
he was almost a victim of his own success in Junior GP and Red Bull Rookies prior to arriving in Moto3. So much was expected of him by virtue of his dominance in the junior categories that he was always going to struggle to match those expectations. He was also put in the shade as far as the Rookie of the Year prize was concerned last year by David Alonso, who fought all the way to the penultimate round here in November for the ultimate World Championship. But as you say, Rueda has been stunning through pre-season testing. It wasn't only his outright fast lap times, but he did a long run, a race simulation in Jerez, which was leagues ahead of anything anybody else did over those 3 days. So Rueda comes here among the red-hot favourites for victory, although it's in hot conditions and in wet conditions too, where Rueda particularly struggled last year. If you can solve those problems, expect him to go quite far. And of course, if you're riding for Red Bull KTM Ayo, nothing but title contention really will do.
You have to deliver, no question. No podium on his last 9 Grand Prix since his solitary podium last year in Catalonia. 1.7 seconds, though, he was inside Andrea Migno's all-time lap record of that recent Jerez test. Good conditions, maybe a sign of some record-busting times to come in the new Pirelli era. Now, one young man who certainly caught the eye, an outstanding rookie season last year. He was a race winner in Malaysia, pole position, of course, in the season-ending Grand Prix in Valencia. Huge expectations on the young shoulders of Colin Via. He was 5th in that Jerez test. I'm delighted to say Via joins Simon down in pit lane.
He does. Colin, you had nothing short of a fantastic rookie year last year, and it's a bit exciting to see what you can do second year, knowing all the circuits and having that year of experience under your belt. Really curious how you're feeling. You're with the same team, but completely different tyres. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in the testing we were not doing too bad. So yeah, I think we're quite ready for this season especially. Yeah, the tyres do give a bit of a different feeling than the Dunlops and also the bike in general. But I think the Pirelli and the new Husqvarna gives quite a good combination, and yeah, I think we can fight for it. We'll fight with it this year.
Just another thing, have you got any favourite you're looking forward to go back to circuit-wise? Or not really? You're just going to take them all one by one and do whatever you can?
Really, I don't have a really favorite one to go. Yeah, maybe Australia, but that's more or less it. I think overall not very excited for any. Just I want to try to win more or less every race, and then I'm alright, I think.
And another thing, teammate-wise, how's the feeling there, and you know, working together, etc.?
Yeah, it's very well. Tatsuki is a very good guy, and yeah, I think we can work together quite well. It's a bit different to Ayumu, but yeah, I think we can work it out also.
Best of luck, Colin, and thanks for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Colin Vire. We're being honest when we say he is from the Netherlands. He's got a better English accent than what myself and Lewis has, but yeah, a lot of eyes on Vire, the first lightweight Dutch winner since Hans Spahn back in 1990. But let's have a look then at the big pre-season favourite. Some of the superstars in MotoGP have put their faith and put their money on this young man. A few times last year we saw that big beaming smile, didn't we, from David Alonso. He is going places, no question. As we mentioned, those 4 wins, 3 second places as well. Nobody last year, well, Jaume Masia, the world champion, the same number of victories as David Alonso. And so Ryusai Yamanaka and Ayagura, colleagues in Moto3 and Moto2 now at MT Helmut's MSI, have a little natter. Of course, Yamanaka's done his pre-season photo shoot duty. Over to you very, very shortly, Ian, as the Moto2 field assemble. We'll quickly, though, go back down to Simon on the grid.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the tyres. I've brought it up a couple of times. It's quite exciting. Pirelli have taken over. Basically, they are the suppliers of the tyres in Moto3 and Moto2. And it's like, from a rider's perspective, tyres are the most important accessory that you put on the machine, you know. And if you gel with them, it's huge. You know, you're going to have a good year. If you don't, it's the opposite. And I mean, Pirelli have been very successful in other championships. They all clearly know what they're doing, and this is really exciting for me to see what's going to happen, meaning who's going to gel and, you know, and shine, who's going to struggle, and what sort of lap times they can do, whether, you know, lap records fall, you know, immediately. And, you know, there's 2 different classes, whether they suit both machines or not. So I'm really curious what's going to happen when the lights go out.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Simon. Certainly something to keep a very close eye on in the early Grand Prix. Will it change the dynamics of the races as well? Will there be a tyre drop-off where the riders are having to manage it more than the Dunlops, of course? Well, we will find out, won't we? In just over, 72 hours away, as the Moto3 field then pose for their pre-season photo shoots. There is Rueda leaving the grid. We saw some of the Italians there having a bit of a nat to the 658 Squadra Corsa colleagues. Filippo Farioli, who's moved over from the Tech 3 squad. Second full season coming up for the 18-year-old. 24th in the World Championship last year was Farioli, points in 4 of 20. And Luca Lanetta, who Lewis mentioned. No doubting who his idol was, supporting the number 58, and quite appropriately now, it seems like he was always destined, wasn't he, to race one day for the 658
Believe it or not, when he was
2.
9 years of age, he actually did win a Minimoto trophy, which was named after Marco Simoncelli. Believe it or not, he is genuinely, he idolises Marco Simoncelli, and who wouldn't?
So we're getting set then for the Moto2 photo shoot coming up very, very shortly. Before that happens, though, keep an eye on him, because he's going to be a title contender for sure this season. Moving over to the dominant end-of-season Boscoscura chassis, I'm delighted to say Simon is joined down on the grid by Ayagura.
I am, and it's a bit exciting. Big changes, the first time I've seen you in colours other than you know, Honda Team Asia, and I'm really curious, new people to work with, different machine. Give us your thoughts so far.
First, I'm really happy about the team and our performance in the winter. As you said, there was a lot of changement for me this year, but about the chassis, tires, we know many things after this 5 days of winter testing. So we feel like we are fully ready to start the season, and just can't wait to start tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I know you're usually very reserved, and I can see some confidence in you. You know, it must have gone very well. Can you tell us about the difference in chassis? And I've just been explaining also tyres are such a big, important thing. And it seems like you've made friends with the Pirellis pretty quickly.
To me, chassis side, I don't feel so much different like I expected. For me, the question mark is on the tire side. I need to know more. I need to know more from the tires. So to me, the biggest change was about the tires. But well, first I'm feeling good with the chassis. This is a good point. And yeah, about the tire, many guys went faster than Dunlop, I think, and they look like they like Pirelli tires more. So we see, but I need to find much more things from Pirelli tire.
I hope you don't mind, because we're not ready for the photo yet. I have another question for you. How did winter go for you training-wise? It must have been some changes there as well, you know, training different with different people, etc. But you look fit and well and ready for the season.
First, I go easy this winter because I don't want to make same happen as last year.
Injuries.
Yeah. So well, it's like safety light, kind of safety light, but it was nice winter, and was nice that I had opportunity to ride Pirelli tire before I'm going back to Japan. So I know more is the way how I train, and it was a nice winter for me. Yes.
I thank you for your time, and we're all wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Ayagura, of course, the 23-year-old Japanese rider. Yes, some significant change, aren't there, behind the scenes? Onto the Boscoscura chassis off the Kalex, and of course the tyre change to contend with as well for Ayagura. No surprise, Lewis, to hear him saying he was in safety mode throughout winter testing, of course, because this time last year, well, his world title hopes are pretty much already gone before a wheel had been turned in anger. A serious wrist injury for Agura really messed up the start of his 2023. Can't believe this. I mean, he didn't podium until round 8 last year, did he, at Ayagura? We expect him to be a title contender. We expect him to be right in the mix this year. And looking at that Jerez test, he was 10th fastest, but just over 3/10 away from Fermin Aldeguer, who has a lot of experience on that Boscoscura chassis. So, looks like Agura was going to be in the game.
He adapted quicker than I certainly expected, and he actually expanded on those comments he just gave to Simon in an interview recently with Motociclismo, where he said that he believes he can be more consistent on the Boscoscura because not only does it still enable him to use his strengths under braking, he still has the braking stability that he wants, that he had on the Kalex, but also the bike enables him to be much stronger on high-speed tracks. It was rather chalk and cheese last year for Agura from one circuit to the next, so he's certainly hoping to be more consistent this year. One place he'll need to start if he's going to be more competitive and a potential title contender is in qualifying. He averaged 13th on the grid last year. To his great credit, he gained 76 places from grid to finish last year, but unfortunately he had way too many places to gain. If he can qualify somewhere sensible on a regular basis this year, expect him to be a consistent podium threat.
Looking relaxed, looking cool, calm and collected inside the Elfmark Vidas Racing Garage is Italian Tony Arbolino, runner-up in the World Championship last year, a distant second to a runaway World Championship, or World Champion Pedro Acosta, of course, who makes his MotoGP debut this weekend for the Red Bull Gas Tech 3 team. Huge hype and expectation around Acosta. Best of the rest last year, though, was Arbolino. 6 podiums, though, in the first 7 races last year. Marked him out as a big threat to Acosta's hopes of winning that World Championship. But it was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it, for the Italian? Because 6 podiums in the first 7 races was followed up then by just 2 in the last 13 after the sanctioning. His title challenge really did peter out. The 23-year-old Italian, though, looked strong in Jerez. He wasn't really, he said, sticking his neck out too much. It was a big crash actually at the Jerez test on the first day into turn 1 in Andalusia for Tony Arbolino, but he did regroup and he was 4th fastest. And he said pre-season testing is one thing. He says we're going to find out who's best prepared come about 7 o'clock on Sunday night. So Arbolino, he'll certainly be hoping to go one better than last year. Of course, with so many potential seats available in MotoGP next year, only 4 riders of the 22-strong MotoGP grid going into this first Grand Prix have contracts in place for next season. Luca Marini, Johan Zarco, Brad Binder, and of course newly crowned world champion Pecco Bagnaia, who announced on Monday, surprise, surprise, he's going nowhere, staying with Ducati in 2025 and 2026. You feel like Arbolino, if he is to move up to MotoGP next season, needs a big 2024 list.
And he'll also be looking to improve as far as qualifying is concerned. So often last year he found himself playing catch-up and having to utilise his incredible strengths on the opening lap of Grand Prix. So often we saw Arbolino going on the attack into the first corner and on the opening lap, so often making up places. But he found himself in qualifying 7 times last year and only ever on the front row once in the whole of 2024. That surely has to change from Tony Arbolino's point of view this year. Apart from that crash, as you mentioned in testing, he has kind of flown under the radar so far in pre-season, has Arbolino, but he does tend to save his best for Sundays, and he'll be hoping that that is the same this year. There's one of your faces in new colours for this season, Jeremy Alcoba, who switches to the Mastercamp squad, partnered by one of 7 rookies on the grid in Moto2 this year. Ayumu Sasaki, last year's Moto3 runner-up. He's joined by the rider that picked him to the title, Jaume Masia, Denison Chu, Diogo Moreira, Xavi Artigas, so you can just see there in the bottom of your picture. He's one of the forward pairing for this season. Mario Aggi completes the 6 riders to have moved up from Moto3, and they're joined by the European Moto2 champion, Senna Agius. Xavi Cardalus, who was runner-up to Agius, who we have seen in Moto2 before, is the 8th other rider, the 8 newcomers/returnees to Moto2 this year.
Now, this young man on your screens right now, under the night lights here in Qatar, well, he shone brighter than anybody else to close out the 2023 Moto2 World Championship, didn't he? Fermin Aldeguer. We've just talked about how David Alonso in Moto3 is a big pre-season favourite. Well, probably the shortest odds in any World Championship category this year, going into our record-breaking 21-round season. It's this young man, Fermin Aldeguer. Podiums in his last 6 Grand Prix, 4 wins in a row. Just the second rider in Moto2 history to pull off that feat, joining Tony Elias all the way back in our very first Moto2 campaign. Seems just like yesterday, doesn't it, back in 2010. This man on screens, well, he knows all about what it takes to win in the Moto2 World Championship, because he did it on a regular basis over the last 2 years, and it carried him to the Intermediate World Championship last year. Aldeguer, no great surprise, seemed to have clicked immediately with the new Pirelli tyres. He was in sensational form in the Jerez test. What a surprise, he was P1 with a 1:40.307, about 3/10 inside Aaron Canet's all-time lap record. Of course, lap times in testing are not declared officially record laps. And we just saw there briefly on screens as the new look MT Helmets MSI squad posed for their photos. From left to right, Ivan Ortola, of course, in Moto3, a double winner last year. Sergio Garcia Ayagura in Moto2, with Ryusai Yamanaka there on the far right. Fermin Aldeguer, lots of people already believe he has got a Ducati contract signed, sealed and delivered in his pocket for 2025. He's playing all that down going into this first Grand Prix. Let's go back down though on the grid to join Simon Crafar from the forward team. A career best 13th place towards the back end of last season, 13th in Sepang. Best qualifying here 4 months ago as well in Qatar. He showed good progress towards the back end of last season. It's Alex Escrige who joins Simon.
He does. Alex, you stand out to me for a few reasons. I want to tell the listeners, you're tall. You know, I'm 6 foot 181, and you're 184, exactly, taller than me. You're a gentleman. Every time I've spoken to you, you're incredible manners and that. And you've had terrible luck and nasty injuries last year and the year before, yeah. So I want to know, are things turning around for you now? Is the testing going well? Do you feel good with the bike and the new tyres?
Yeah, at least I hope this luck change. At least now it's coming fine. With bike, I improve a lot. Also feeling, also the bike improves a lot. So we'll see in the first race what differs to us. But at least the bike is coming faster. We are coming faster. With the team, we are getting better. So we'll see what differs this first race.
And yeah, I can imagine also confidence coming back, you know, after tough times. It takes time, you know, time to build that. How is that going?
Yeah, at least I also believe in me because it's the first part to be a good rider. But anyway, when you get injured, you think a little. But anyway, this part go in the past. So now I'm focusing in the future, focusing work, focusing races, and focus to enjoy.
Good man. And I'd like to say to all the listeners, I hope they keep an eye out for you because I think you have the ability to do something good. And we wish you the best of luck, Alex Escrige.
Really thanks, really thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Alex Escrige then, ahead of what he hopes will be an injury-free season. It was tough at times, wasn't it? Last year, missed a whole bunch of races. There are two men on your screens who are going to figure very, very prominently in this year's Moto2 scrap. Fermin Aldeguer, as you mentioned, coming into this season, there's a little bit of a cheeky wink there, and he's so full of confidence. I mean, he's just breaking records galore right now in terms of the Intermediate World Championship, isn't he? The number 54, the youngest ever Intermediate World Championship pole position setter, third youngest ever intermediate class winner. And of course, history beckons here on Sunday night because no rider in the 14 previous seasons in Moto2 has ever gone on a golden streak of 5 successive wins. And I have to say, from what we've seen so far in testing, Aldeguer is going to take some stopping, and he decimated the field here back in November, Lewis.
Yeah, he dropped to 9th place on the second lap. He made a mistake at the end of the home straight and still seemed to overtake at will on his way back to the front of the field again. So Fermin Aldeguer, certainly the title favourite, hoping to contend for the title in Moto3 this season for MT Helmets MSI. He was an MTA rider that last year. He's now with MT Helmets MSI. Ivan Ortola is in pit lane with Simon.
He is. Just before you go off the grid, I thought I'd catch you and ask how the pre-season testing went and how did you feel on the new Pirellis?
Yeah, I really worked very hard in the winter for this season. Yeah, I'm very confident, prepared for this season, and I will give my best to achieve what I want.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks to Ivan Ortola. Excellent 2023, 114 points more he scored last year in his rookie season, up from 17th to 6th in the overall rankings. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. Coming up then is your class of 2024 in Moto2. A couple of Dutch riders on your screens there. You can see Zonta van den Gorberg, Bo Benschneider, who recently celebrated his 25th birthday. Belated happy birthday to Bo. And a very new look, a Red Bull KTM IO squad, and an exciting lineup to boot as well. On the left there, we saw Celestino Vietti, who we know is a proven race-winning talent in the Moto2 field, and now in a team where you just wonder where that's the final piece of the jigsaw, where Vietti will be able to sustain a title challenge for the whole season. And I don't think there's anybody on planet Earth, Lewis, that can't wait to see what his teammate, Turkish tearaway Dennis Onju, can deliver, because whatever happens, there's going to be fireworks.
He's box office, isn't he? No question about that. It felt for a couple of years, hadn't it, that Dennis Onju had outgrown Moto3 machinery. So often we saw in Moto3 last year, the best example was Mugello, where he was just powerless on the straights to deal with the smaller, lighter riders who were able just to blast past him when they reached top speed. He certainly got much more of a fighting chance and much more of a level playing field this time. I think many have looked at Onju as the likeliest rookie to shine, and that was certainly borne out from what we saw in the official test at Jerez. Onju was the leading rookie, and within a second of the outright pace, and his teammate Celestino Vietti will certainly be eyeing a title charge. Generally, certainly the last few years have borne this out. If you ride for Red Bull KTM IO Moto2, you tend to fight for, if not win, the championship. So that will certainly be the goal for Celestino Vietti, although that team, along with the Aspar and the Intact squads in this Moto2 class, have had a little bit to deal with in pre-season testing, having switched from Öhlins to WP suspension. So they may get stronger as the year goes on, but we might have to keep our expectations under control at this early stage for those 3 squads.
Yeah, a change that certainly has thrown a curveball to a couple of riders. Jake Dixon has talked about his struggles. Of course, if they'd have remained with Öhlins, you've got a base setup. You go to every circuit, you're armed with a wealth of data and information. Of course, changing suspension and changing tyres, that is a monumental change for Jake Dixon to get his head around. He was struggling a little bit, it's fair to say, in Jerez, down in 12th place. There is the back of the new look Liqui Moly Husqvarna squad, as Darren Binder continues, the South African who had his injury woes last year. In terms of appearances, well, nobody has made more on this Moto2 grid than the South African. He'll be hoping for an injury-free campaign, won't he? And of course, will be interesting to see what he can do. High quality field this in the 75th anniversary of the MotoGP World Championship. 20 riders on this Moto2 grid have won Grand Prix. Moto2 victories have gone the way of Vietti, Arbolino, Joe Roberts, who really shone in winter testing. He was second to Aldeguer in Jerez. We've also seen Moto2 wins for Alonso Lopez, Somkiat Chantra, Aldeguer, of course, Agura, and the man who we just saw close up there, Jake Dixon. But there's a whole bunch of riders as well who won Grand Prix in Moto3. This is a well, I say a tough one to call, because if Aldeguer carries on, if he picks up where he left off 2023, it's going to be a bit of a cruise for him. But when you look at the test, Lewis, a few surprise names up there, in particular Joe Roberts, who really caught the eye. Seems like he's been galvanised by a return to American racing, back with familiar territory with John Hopkins, and of course there's no longer that language barrier that he had at Taltrans Racing, where that did seem to be quite a hurdle.
And he loves the Pirellis too. He said straight away he absolutely loves the Italian rubber. Spent a lot of time on his personal R1 in America with the Pirelli tyres to try and adjust to them. So Joe Roberts certainly feels much more at home, not only with the bike underneath him, but as you say, the team that Joe Roberts is with, returning to the American racing team. He said everything just feels right back with the team led by Ethan Butbull and John Hopkins. And he's a rider who goes particularly well here. Twice in his last 5 visits, including last year, of course, Joe Roberts on pole here. So expect him to be towards the sharp end again this weekend.
And let's not forget, we welcome into MotoGP for the first time a brand new American team, Trackhouse Racing, who are running Aprilias this year. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but they have made it quite clear.
They're serious.
They want an American talent in the future, so a really strong season for Joe Roberts then puts him in that market, doesn't it? Of course, he has been previously strongly linked to Aprilia as well. I do believe Joe Roberts was actually at the Trackhouse team presentation in California. I know that Joe is based in California, but yeah, you do feel an excellent season will definitely put him firmly in the eyes and on the radar of Trackhouse Racing. Let's go back down to pit lane then and join Honda Team Asia crew chief. Previously, of course, worked with Agura. I'm delighted to say joining Simon down the grid is Norman Rank.
Yeah, I just caught Norman hanging over the pit wall, and you're one of the real characters of the paddock. I love catching up with Norman, and you've gone with I to the empty helmet squad. Big move for both you and I, you know, changing teams. And I'm really curious, after speaking with I just before, as everyone heard, he comes across so confident and happy. I'm really curious, how's your feeling from inside the garage?
Yeah, it was a big move for us because it was not only the tires new, we had also a new bike, the new brand, the speed up Bosco Scuro. We feel good because we took the bike like they gave us, and he feel immediately safe. Of course, it was not everything perfect because it was like Fermin's setting. So we tried to combine the advantage of the Galax, the know-how what we have, with the advantage of the Bosco Scuro, and he was immediately fast. And the test, I never saw him on the limit, you know, so I see there's something good is coming.
Sounds great. And you've confirmed what I felt when I spoke to him. Norman, thank you for your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Norman Rank. They formed quite a formidable partnership, didn't they, down the years of Honda Team Asia? And they're good to see the Rank-Agura combination will carry on. There is the new look and very distinctive CF Moto Aspar squad. On the left-hand side of your picture, of course, now a Grand Prix winner. What that did for Jake Dixon's belief and confidence when he took the checkered flag first after a good battle with Agura in the Dutch TT in Assen. Hasn't found that transition to Pirelli and WP suspension, in particular an easy one, Jake Dixon. And of course on the right-hand side of your screens there was Ethan Guevara, who had that incredible run to the 2022 Moto3 World Championship. Point scoring finishes though were quite rare, weren't they, in what was a pretty tough rookie season for the young Spanish rider. So he's going to have to really kick on. 22nd in the World Championship last year's Guevara, just 20 points claimed in that rookie season. Well, myself and Lewis have just talked about him. He is going to be super exciting to watch in 2024. Can't wait for lights out on Sunday just to see how Dennis Onju fares in his new job as a Moto2 World Championship rider. And delight to say he's always great to watch on circuit and great to hear off the bike as well. Dennis joins Simon down in pit lane.
He does, and Bertie, you said exactly what I want to know is, Dennis, you've been big enough to ride a Moto2 bike for some years. You've finally got on one. You were fast on the Moto3. Are you going to be fast on the Moto2? Do you like it?
Yeah, at the moment I'm just enjoying and understanding the style to ride the bike. But already the test was quite good. Maybe I'm not doing the best for one lap. So I don't care. I'm just fast as a pace. At the moment, I have no pressure. I'm here to enjoy, learn. Thankfully, I'm lucky that the team is trusting to me also. But my job at the moment here is to touch the other balls of the riders, you know, just enjoy. And I'm like a joker on the circuit, so yeah, I'm just gonna enjoying on the circuit.
And you've not only had to adapt to the bigger machine, but we've had a tyre brand change as well, meaning from Dunlop to Pirelli. I've heard a lot of good things. How do you feel about the tyres?
Yeah, about the Pirelli tyres. Maybe some riders is gonna struggle, I don't know. We have to ask Darren because he was using Dunlop, but this is my first time on Moto2 with directly Pirelli, so I'm feeling good, fast, and let's see in the weekend.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. Good luck.
Thank you. And you can speak with Darren also now.
Yeah, that was my plan. We're going to switch straight across to Darren. Those two characters are having some banter. And and Darren, really curious how you felt after winter testing. You're getting more experience now, and you must be pretty ready to roll.
Yeah, it's been a tricky pre-season. Not a lot of days to test. Unfortunately, our first private test in Portugal was really bad weather, so we only did one day of maybe, I think, like 35, 40 laps. So we really only got 3 days in Jerez and then straight here to the first race. So not that much time to really get things under control. But yeah, the biggest thing right now is just trying to understand the tires. You know, like in the 3 days, obviously we tried all the different combinations of the soft and the medium and whatever, and yeah, it's just trying to find the one that's going to bring not only the fast lap but also full race distance. And from what we know now in Jerez, we're going to have to see what it's like in Qatar, because you never know how aggressive it's going to be on the tire, what the tire wear is going to be like. So we're going to have to really work things out quickly tomorrow, and then we'll have to see.
And style have to change on the bike, you think, or still not work that part out yet with the lack of mileage? And I heard about the lack of mileage from Extern Pro, who supply the engines. They didn't even have to do the engine change when they normally needed to because of the amount of rain, lack of laps. So yeah, back to the style. Do you have to ride the bike differently on the different tyres?
Yeah, so right now I'm still trying to figure it out like fully for myself, but from what I understand right now, I feel like you need to be super aggressive to put the bike on angle. I feel like the harder you throw the bike in, the better it's working. The harder you are on the tire, the more it's working, you know. So it's just to find that trust in the tire and to just believe it's there, you know. But easier said than done. But yeah, so far I'm starting to understand it a little bit, and I'm hoping that once we figure out how to work on these tires, how to ride on them, maybe we can start taking advantage of the softer option and really start getting the lap time down. You know, at the moment I feel like I've been working more on pace and race distance over the couple of days of testing, so we're gonna have to see what happens here.
Darren, thanks for your time. You're a great character to have in the paddock. I hope it goes good.
Thank you.
Don't ever change Dennis Onju, don't ever change Darren Binder, because they are proper characters that we need in this MotoGP World Championship. Yeah, fingers crossed that Binder has an injury-free season. Missed 6 Grand Prix last year. Some of those crashes that sidelined him weren't necessarily his own fault. That horrendous crash he had going into first corner at the Malaysian Grand Prix in Sepang. Here's a first glimpse of the traditional sort of fluorescent yellow and black and blue Italtrans Racing Team livery. 2 former Moto3 winners make up their stable next year. Second season beckons for Dennis Foggia, who didn't have a bad year actually last year. Did Foggia, of course, a 10-time winner in Moto3 and one of several hot rookies in Moto2 this year. Just posing for some photos down there on the grid is Brazilian Diogo Moreira, who had a real tough ending to last year after that breakthrough first win in Mandalika. Just 3 points followed in the last 5 Grand Prix, and a big learning year ahead for the 19-year-old from Sao Paulo.
Yeah, there was something of a bidding war, it felt like, going on partway through last year to try and secure Diogo Moreira's services for Moto2. Very highly thought of in this paddock, and of course comes from a part of the world that if he does make his way to MotoGP, he's going to have plenty of support behind him, as well as Diogo Moreira. So he's going to be one of the rookies looking to make a splash this season. As mentioned, we've got 6 of them moving up from Moto3 to Moto2. We've already heard from the ever-eloquent Dennis Onju. And we can now go down to the start-finish line and hear from a rider who will be certainly thinking championship this year. He finished 4th in the world last year. Can he break his way into the top 3 this year? Jake Dixon's with Simon.
Jake, always good to see you. Completely different colours. I know you're working with the same guys, but wow, colours are a big change. How do you feel about winter testing? You're one more year experienced, and are you ready?
First of all, I'm loving the wide stance. Just really getting into position. I love that, you know.
Ready for a fight?
Exactly. Well, yeah, there is a fight going on over this way, isn't there, with Anthony Joshua and Ngannou? So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, it's been same colours, but obviously big change of team sponsor. CF Moto's come on board, so it's great for Aspar, great for CF Moto to have that collaboration. And then obviously we've gone to WP as well, so been a big change on that front of suspension. It's going to take time. It's not something that we are 100% up to speed with, because obviously we've only had 3 proper dry days. We got through a lot of stuff. They made a big step from Valencia to Jerez, but now we need another step again to fight with the guys with the Olins. So not ideal, not the position that we want to be in, but I feel that we can still take it to them and fight this weekend for a podium. I will still be disappointed if we're not there, because like I say, I want to fight for the championship this year. I feel good, and yeah.
Stop talking.
And
Ayumu.
Yeah, Ayumu's always trying to butt in, but he's not big enough to see the mic yet, so.
Hey, so must be hard to understand what is the difference in feeling, whether, you know, when you change both suspension and tyres.
Yeah, 100%. I think the tyre situation, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we're all experienced enough to know a difference between 1 or 2 tyres, you know, different compounds, different makes, etc. I think the biggest thing at the minute is the suspension for us, but that's just reality. WP know that they need to work. We've had a lot of meetings, but meetings need to turn into results at the end of the day. And like I said, I'm not here to be a development rider. I'm here to win, and I'm here to win a championship. And the team know that, WP know that, and like I say, they've got all the resources to be the best. So we need to just put all the pieces together and become the best.
Okay. Thanks for your time, Jake.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Simon. Thanks to Jake Dixon. 28 years of age going into 2024, the oldest rider in the class. 3rd in the World Championship was Dixon from that Dutch TT victory in Assen, and he lost it at the last race, didn't he? Got his suit ready for the FIM gala. And Fermin Aldeguer, who was just on that red-hot streak at the end of the season, managed to nab away that 3rd place Prix. Well, he's no newcomer to Moto2, is he? Having had a few standing rides previously for Liqui Moly Husqvarna and for Mark Vides Racing. But exciting times for Australian fans in particular, as they get a new hero to cheer on in Moto2. And that is Senna Aegis, who joins Simon down in pit lane.
He does. Senna, your first full year of World Championship. Super exciting.
Oh, incredibly exciting. It feels really good to be have my own seat now, obviously, and I have a full season ahead of me, and that's just so exciting. So, yeah, we're here in Qatar. It's been a long break. I've been itching to get back on the bike. Testing's going good, so I'm really excited.
Super excited. I still remember it was so good when I first got my first full year, 94. What year were you born?
2005.
Yeah, huge. So I'm just curious also, I've asked all the riders, because I wanted to hear all the comments, is not only your first full season, but your first season on Pirellis. How does that feel?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've done a couple seasons, obviously, in Junior GP now, and a couple appearances here on the old spec of the Moto2 category, and I can 100% say that now it's completely different. It's changed the whole characteristic of the bike, and I think the racing's going to change incredibly. But a really good time to step in, because I think the bike and the evolution of the bikes are getting much better. So, no, I'm feeling good and I'm happy.
Brilliant answer. And I really look forward to see what you can do, over the next couple of years, Senna. Best of luck.
No, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to see a young Aussie, Senna Aegis, getting his first full season in the Moto2 World Championship. Back in 2022, replaced Sam Lowe for 4 races. Last year, 5 replacement rides, a combo of replacement rides for Darren Binder and Lucas Tulovic. Second in the 2022 European Moto2 Championship, and he was the dominant victor in that series last year. 67 points clear of his closest rival, and he missed 2 races injured. Yeah. An indication of his superiority last year. This, though, is what it is all about, ahead of the 75th anniversary of the World Championship racing, since it all began way back in 1949. The MotoGP bikes are coming to the grid. 1 bike from each team will be on the grid, and then we will have all 22 riders who will compete for the biggest prize in motorcycle racing over a record-breaking 21-round season, which of course means we get 21 Grand Prix, 21 TSO sprints. The action will come thick and fast between now and November. And who would have thought we'd ever see that sight? The number 93, 8 times world champion, of course, Marc Marquez, making one of the biggest shock transfers probably of the last 20 years, since Valentino Rossi quit Honda and jumped onto a factory Yamaha. This is a different scenario, though. 11 years on a Repsol Honda, a glittering career for the 31-year-old Spaniard. Is there still some of the old magic to come as Marc Marquez gets set for his Gresini Ducati debut? Is it written in the night stars here in Qatar? No rider has won on their Ducati debut since Casey Stoner did so right here in Qatar back in 2007, which seems like a long, long time ago. We spoke to Marc Marquez briefly in the pre-event press conference, where once again, Lewis, he's been an absolute master of this throughout the winter, playing down expectations. I'm not here to fight for the podium. Well, he is here to fight for the podium. He doesn't think he's capable of that just yet, as he continues this big learning curve, the adaptation process from the RC213V Honda to last year's Ducati. We should just point out Marc is on the GP23, which is the World Championship winning motorcycle. Yeah. But there is so much focus on him, so much expectation. Do we believe Marc when he says he's not going to be fighting for the win and the podium here on Saturday and Sunday?
Well, I'm going to take Marc at his word on that. He knows the situation better than me, but I'm not going to say and sit here with certainty and say that he can't, because he's Marc Marquez, and so often he exceeds his own expectations and performs minor miracles on motorcycles. He did it for so long with the Honda. There he is alongside his brother and teammate Alex Marquez. Their previous spell as teammates was all too short, wasn't it? Marc Marquez injured himself in their first race as teammates at Jerez in 2020, and save for a couple of sessions the following weekend, he never rode alongside his brother as teammates again. They will here this weekend. Marc Marquez, suddenly showed his hand a little bit towards the end of the 2-day test here a couple of weeks ago. He had a pretty tough Sepang test, it's fair to say. Had quite a few technical problems and accepted that he was still trying to ride the bike like a Honda. Of course, the Ducati asks very different questions of the riders. It looked like he'd figured it out a little bit more at the Qatar test. Admittedly, two circuits that have never really brought the best out of Marc Marquez, but his longer run pace was certainly stronger than his single lap pace. So Marc Marquez might not necessarily be a favourite for pole on Saturday afternoon, but once we get to the sprint on Saturday night and the full-length Grand Prix of Qatar over 22 laps on Sunday night, I don't think Marc Marquez is going to be too far away.
Never discount the 8-times world champion. He said this move was all about, yes, one, finding out if he still has it, still got what it takes to fight for that 9th world championship. But that picture there tells the story. Marc Marquez said he wants to smile again inside that helmet. He wants to enjoy racing again. Of course, freed from the responsibility, freed from the burden of being a lead rider in a major factory. Marc Marquez now just turns up on that Ducati, gets new tyres in it, puts fuel in it, and off he rides and learns and adapts. Frankie Carcetti, his new crew chief, who has world championship winning pedigree himself, of course, with Joan Mir back in 2022 at Suzuki. Now he feels, and Frankie should know better than anybody else because he's right in the heart of that Gresini Ducati garage, 3 or 4 races it will be before we see Marc fully dialed in, fully in tune with what he needs from the bike and from himself.
A third of them is Austin.
Yeah, to be taking that battle to the likes of Bagnaia, Martin and Bastianini. Yeah, you do feel that probably Austin is one that they've already probably put a little tick next to, haven't they, on the calendar as, yeah, that's where we can really start to show our hand. But it is exciting times, so many exciting times in the MotoGP World Championship with Marc Marquez, of course, Pedro Acosta coming into MotoGP, Moto3 and Moto2 world champion. Now, without any question, I'm biased and I'm declaring this. The first prize of 2024 has already gone to Lucio Cecchinello's LCR Honda squad because that Castrol livery is absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
Not this one, Matt.
And a big thank you also, I've got to say thank you to Valentino Rossi and to Aldo Drudi because, there you go, a commentator's dream. Marco Bezzecchi and Fabio Di Gianantonio on the very distinctive new Pertamina Enduro VR46 Ducati.
Turning the colour contrast down here.
Not exactly going incognito, are they? It's fair to say. I never thought I'd say this, but I think I'm actually thinking I might need to bring sunglasses to the commentary box. Yeah, you are not going to miss Bez or Digia out on circuit. Di Gianantonio, of course, trying to make it back-to-back wins here in Qatar after he stunned the paddock here 4 months ago, getting the better of Pecco Bagnaia to take that emotional career-first victory and a victory which saved his MotoGP career.
And while we're on the subject of new liveries, there's another, a brand new livery for Repsol Honda. I thought I would never see the day. Of course, it is a new era for that team in so many respects. Life after Marc Marquez begins here for Repsol Honda. The number 10 now of Luca Marini is on the front of that bike as Marc Marquez looks at the motorcycle he used to ride, although as Joan Mir told us earlier today, it is a completely new bike to the one that Marc Marquez jumped off or was knocked off in the final race of last season in Valencia. It does feel from all the noises that you hear and all the evidence we've seen in testing that Honda are starting to make progress in the right direction. It feels as if they have hit rock bottom and are now starting to bounce their way back up again. They and Yamaha will have concessions available to them which will enable them to continue to progress as the year goes on. The only problem for them is that while they've been progressing, Ducati towards the front haven't exactly been standing still.
Just looking at Marquez there, Marc Marquez in that green uniform, still struggling to get the eyes adjusted to the fact that he's not in Repsol Honda livery. Of course, this season, after their very well-publicised problems over the last couple of years, Honda and Yamaha benefiting from performance concessions. They get extra tyres for testing, extra engine allocation. And now the onus is on the Iwata and Honda engineers to find something. Fabio Quartararo not exactly over-enthusiastic or optimistic about his prospects of fighting for the podium here this weekend in Qatar. Of course, it was a very bleak 2023, wasn't it, for the former world champion. 2021 champ was Fabio Quartararo. Clearly, what we have seen That's obvious from the paperwork in MotoGP. The result sheets show a big improvement from Yamaha in terms of top speed, which will certainly help Quartararo out in a race situation. And as we've seen over the last couple of years, Lewis, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with Fabio's race pace. His major concern, his big headache going into this opening Grand Prix of the season and beyond, it was exposed once again in both Sepang and here in Qatar a couple of weeks ago. The Yamaha is missing huge performance in time attack. The one lap pace is just not there, and it's all well and good Fabio having good race pace, but useless when he's fourth row or lower.
Some numbers to back that up. In 2023, Fabio Quartararo's average qualifying position was 12th on the grid. His average gap to pole, taking aside Silverstone, where he was miles off in a wet qualifying session, was 3/4 of a second. So they were 3/4 of a second per lap slower than this bike, or the bike that Ducati rode last year, the GP23, in qualifying trim. And as you say, no matter how good Fabio Quartararo is over the course of a race distance, you can't do much with that if you're starting 4th, 5th row back. Well, on paper, you'd say that Monster Energy Yamaha might well have the most talented rider pairing on the grid this year. Fabio Quartararo is joined by a former winner on both a Honda and a Suzuki, and looking to add a Yamaha to that this year, it's Alex Rins who's with Simon.
It is, and I'm happy to report, we're going to hear from Alex himself, but walking over to me to say hello, Alex, you're walking the best I've seen you walk since the injury, and it seems like bang on time as he's getting harassed by his team manager. Yeah, it seems like the timing's right. You're moving the best I've seen.
Yeah, honestly, day by day, I'm feeling better and better with the leg. Still, sometimes, for example, early in the morning when I wake up, I'm struggling a little bit to walk.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, I'm just 28, man. No, but yeah, I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling so good.
Brilliant news. I'm not going to hassle you about all the technical side, but it looks like Yamaha have made some improvements. The thing I want to know, is it starting to feel like your bike?
Yeah, I'm starting to feel this bike to me, you know. Honestly, when I jump in the bike in Valencia, I already had really good feeling with the bike. But day by day, riding, getting used to the bike, getting used to the team, I'm feeling like with more potential. You know?
And it felt like at the Qatar test on the last day, you made a click. I'm only watching from the outside, but it felt like this when I watched.
Yeah. Last day here in Qatar, we make an improvement. So yeah, in the end, you know, first day of Qatar, I was like testing many things, many items, and not enough time to
work on your own things.
Exactly, on my own things, on the setup. Basically, the last day was just focus. I was just focused on me, you know, and yeah, we did it a step forward. Let's see how we start tomorrow. Yeah.
Alex, thank you for your time. We look forward to see you on track tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Alex Rins, a season that never really recovered last year from the crash he sustained in the Tissot sprint where he broke his leg. An injury that forced him to wear an external fixator following that. He then had a hernia later on in the year, which forced him to miss a chunk of the flyaway schedule, including this race here, to the point that Alex Rins felt that when he came here for the Qatar test 2.5 weeks ago, it felt like he was learning a brand new circuit all again because of the extra buildings that have been put up around this circuit since he rode here in 2022 at the start of that season. It felt like he had to learn his references all over again, but it did feel from once that was announced, knowing what we know about that motorcycle, the motorcycle that's just coming through your picture now, it always felt like Alex Rins was born to ride a Yamaha. He might not be joining them in their best moment, but as mentioned, like Honda, they do have concessions available to them to try and close the gap as the year goes on.
And he's now in a club with Jack Miller and Maverick Vinales, of course, with the opportunity to be the first rider in the modern four-stroke MotoGP era to win for 3 different factories, having done so for Honda in memorable fashion, of course in Austin last season, and previously for Suzuki. And there's that beautiful LCO Honda livery. Johan Zarco campaigning that there as the very distinctive, very easy to spot. We welcome to MotoGP at Trackhouse Racing What an addition they have already been to this MotoGP grid. Welcome all. It's going to be an emotional ride. It's going to be a spectacular ride, that's for sure. Of course, they will come to the grid with Miguel Oliveira and Raul Fernandez. Oliveira has the latest spec RSGP 24, identical spec to factory riders Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales. Raul Fernandez starting the season for the time being on the 2023 spec bike, and I guess, Lewis, it's going to be performance related if he turns up and delivers on the promise that we saw in Moto3 and Moto2. Well, I think Aprilia have said they will roll out a 2024 spec for him at some point in the season, but it's all on Fernandez's shoulders to deliver the results that warrant the upgrade.
Fernandez didn't exactly start 2024 in the best shape either, did he? Had a crash very early at the Sepang test. The crash that wasn't particularly Raul's fault, went down on a wet patch that was left following some overnight rain before that test began. And the injury initially didn't seem all that bad, but as time transpired, it turned out that he'd actually fractured his hip and pelvis, which we just thought previously was heavily bruised. He has since recovered from that and was able to take part in the test here a couple of weeks ago, and as mentioned, he is on the 2023 spec Aprilia. Miguel Oliveira here on screen is on the 2024 spec machine. As you say, definitely a close-up for Miguel. We'll be looking at him very closely because it's a real statement of intent from that new team to foot the bill for a 2024 spec Aprilia, and then to recruit Davide Brivio, a former World Championship winning team principal, to the fold as well. Make no mistake about it, Trackhouse Racing are serious about this.
Davide Brivio's CV speaks for itself. Of course, a rider market at the start of 2024, which has only 4 riders in MotoGP under contract beyond this season. I reckon that could be one of the signings of the season already, getting Davide Brivio, a man of his calibre, a man of his experience on board. Like Lewis said, it's a proper, serious statement of intent, isn't it, from Justin Marks, nobody connected to the Trackhouse Racing team. As far as Aprilia goes, I think it's fair to say that of their quartet of riders in winter testing, it was Aleix Espargaro who was the happiest. I mean, it was love at first sight for Aleix. He liked the new bike immediately on the first touch in Valencia in cool and windy conditions back in late November. And that love affair has just got stronger and stronger. Very fast and competitive, wasn't he, in Sepang and here in Qatar. And of course, a lot of focus on Aleix, 34 years of age now, the elder statesman in MotoGP. His contract up for renewal. A few people have mentioned the word retirement, but looking and listening to Aleix throughout winter testing, Lewis, retirement seems further away from his thinking than ever before. He seems hungry, he seems motivated, and perhaps more importantly, he feels fast.
Yeah, he looks as driven as I've ever seen Aleix Espargaro, and as you say, he was the rider who adapted quickest to the 2024 spec RSGP. Says it suits his style much more. He does accept that it is potentially a harder bike to ride, but it is ultimately quicker, and I guess a rider would take a harder bike to ride if ultimately the stopwatch leads them somewhere closer to the front. Maverick Vinales, by contrast, didn't necessarily get on with that bike immediately, but did improve at the test here a couple of weeks ago. Aleix Espargaro changed his training regime and his training prep coming into this 2024 season. He's showing no signs of a rider winding his career down.
Yeah, he was on a pretty intense training camp, I think, wasn't he? Was it in the Canary Islands, down in Tenerife, maybe? Him and Jorge Martin were really busting a gut. I think Jorge Martin said he shed a lot of weight in winter testing, feels like he's in his best physical condition coming into a season, of course, where, once again, he will be one of the biggest thorns in the side of Pecco Bagnaia. The big question is, though, going into 2024, loud and proud on the front of that factory Ducati, is that #1 plate successfully defended by Bagnaia last year in that thrilling conclusion to the MotoGP World Championship. And what we've seen so far in winter testing is going to take some prizing away from the Italian, Lewis. I mean, I think it's fair to say, no exaggeration, it was perfect Pecco throughout the winter. Record lap times in both Sepang and in Qatar. He was P1 the timesheets in both pre-season tests. He's spoken in nothing but glowing terms about the step that Ducati made with the GP24. It's better on braking, better on corner entry, which we know was an area he struggled at in the latter stages of last season, and of course as well, more significantly, announced on Monday he's staying with Ducati. Shock horror, he wasn't going to go anywhere else, was he? But that also is just another distraction that's out of his mind. Pecco Bagnaia comes here, Lewis, probably better prepared than any other rider on the grid, and that's pretty ominous when you see what he's been able to deliver over the last couple of years.
All the hallmarks of a rider and a team that has hit house in order to have tied down Bagnaia for another 2 seasons before this year has even begun. Pecco Bagnaia looking to make it a three-peat this season. He set a 150.952 on the second day of the test here, which is 0.8 of a second under the official all-time lap record set by Luca Marini to take pole here 4 months ago. So that is how far the game has moved on in 2024 already. Pecco Bagnaia looks like the best version of himself we've seen in MotoGP, but given that particularly his teammate looks a much more credible threat this year, he might well have to be.
It looks like it will be the enemy from within, won't it? Again for Bagnaia, Ducati. Clearly, they have strength in numbers. 8 bikes on the grid again, but they have some serious talent. That is a deep talent pool in Borgo Panigale, of course, only strengthened by the arrival of Marc Marquez at Gresini Ducati. Bagnaia signed and sealed on his new 2-year contract. One of the fascinating subplots throughout this season will be who will slot in alongside him in 2025, because there's an all manner of contenders. Of course, you would feel like a repeat of last year. He hopes he'll go one better, of course. Last year's run-up, Jorge Martin will put him in prime position. Martin has made no qualms, though, has he, to the media, that if he doesn't get the factory Ducati suite, he will happily hop somewhere else. Bastianini back to his peak physical best. A year to redeem himself is how Nea described the pre-season. And don't discount Marco Bezzecchi, Marc Marquez, and a couple of other names as well, which Ducati will keep a very close look at for Pecco Bagnaia's 2025 teammate. It feels strange, doesn't it? I mean, it just shows the intrigue of the silly season. We've not even turned a wheel in anger, have we, in 2024? And we're already talking about who might slot in where, the game of musical chairs for 2025. So many questions were fired to both sets of 3 riders in the pre-event press conferences about the future. But yeah, Bagnaia, it will be very, very difficult to take that #1 plate away from the reigning world champion. The first Ducati rider in history to successfully retain the championship. He did it in style, started last season on the top step of the podium in Portimao in both the sprint and the Grand Prix, and he ended the season on the top step of the podium and ultimately on top of the world. He is clearly the man to beat. He's certainly my pre-season favourite, Lewis. I mean, I'm not exactly sticking my neck on the line when you look at Bagnaia's record over the last couple of years, but I think if there was a smidgen of doubt, he buried those with those lap times in testing, because it was sensational.
Yeah, it was eye-watering pace that I think would have seen a few chins hit the floor elsewhere up in the pit lane when they saw that 150.9 pop up on the screen. The Ducatis were dominant, although Aleix Espargaro did get to within a few tenths of a second of them in that final day of pre-season testing. So don't expect it to be all about Ducati this season. We've already touched upon Aprilia, Aleix Espargaro, Maverick Vinales will certainly aim to muscle in on the action at the front of the field. KTM, who challenged for many victories last season, but ultimately didn't ever taste one. On a Sunday, at least, we saw the best of Brad Binder, particularly in a number of the early season TSO sprints. And the last time we saw MotoGP bikes race around a circuit in anger, KTM blew a 1-2 finish with Brad Binder and Jack Miller both making mistakes while leading. KTM, so often difficult to read in pre-season testing, although it does appear as if they are somewhere around the shape they were in last season, although they tend to save their best when the lap times well and truly matter.
Yeah, Brad Binder, the South African, newlywed, of course, in December. Congratulations to you, Brad, and his new wife. He feels like KTM are ready. That is their slogan, of course, isn't it? Ready to race. Well, he feels they're better prepared than ever before. Certainly improvements in terms of their drive grip, which might not come to the fore around the sort of sweeping fast sections of Qatar. When we get to sort of more normal European tracks, shall we say, where there's a bit more stopping, a bit more braking, where you need the grunt coming out the corners, that's where this step forwards in rear drive grip could help the KTMs. But of course, what we have seen from winter testing is KTM have made strides forward, Aprilia have, but so have Ducati. I bumped into Pecco Bagnaia's crew chief this morning at the hotel, Christian Gavarini, and we're just saying, looked like you had a pretty good winter And he said the good thing about this GP24 is normally it takes a new Ducati 2 or 3 races to bed in for us to find the optimal setup. We've already found it. It was immediately fast, straight out of the gate. Talking of Ducatis, that's a great sight, isn't it? Just having a catch-up with his former crew at Monster Energy Yamaha. Fair to say, got a smile on his face right now, and he looks all happy, but it has been a very, very difficult and complicated pre-season for Frankie Morbidelli. He has not sat on a Grand Prix motorcycle since the Valencia test last November. The reason why, unfortunately, was a lot of MotoGP riders went to a special track day at the Algarve International Circuit in Portimao just to blow off some cobwebs before the Sepang test. A whole bunch of Ducati riders were there. The VR46 Academy were there, including this man, Pecco Bagnaia, the world champion. Frankie Morbidelli had a horrendous crash and subsequently suffered a severe concussion, which sadly ruled him out of both the Sepang test 3 days and the Qatar test here recently 2 days. He was grateful and went to thank both Alex and Marc Marquez here at the Qatar test. He was present here a couple of weeks ago in Losail just to keep a beady eye on what was going on, but thanks to some quick actions of the Marquez brothers, it certainly helped the initial recovery, the initial response of Frankie Morbidelli. But Lewis, it's hard in MotoGP at any time, but he has got a massive mountain to climb with not a single lap turned so far. Before we pick up, though, on Frankie Morbidelli starting his new journey with Prima Pramac Racing, one man who has caught the eye a lot in winter testing. Can he take that fight to the dominant Ducatis? He's got the experience now, age 34, a proven MotoGP winner. Delighted, as always, to hear the pre-season thoughts of Aleix Espargaro, who joined Simon.
Yes, he does. Just taking a GoPro off his chest. Aleix, huge statement from you on final night. I went to your debrief, and you know, the best you've ridden in your life, you know, best you're riding in your life, best machine you've had in your career. I know you like the circuit. You're sounding dangerous, and that's before you've tried the new engine.
Yeah, I mean, I know I put pressure on myself saying that, but it's the reality. I mean, they did a really good job back in Noale during the winter. Bike looks promising. We know that we have to work in the engine side, but overall we did good step forward. So I can't wait to start racing.
Aleix, thanks for your time.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks then to Aleix Espargaro. He won top 69 since that fantastic win where he dominated on home turf in Catalonia. Here he is then, getting set for an exciting new adventure, a new journey in the career of 8-time world champion Marc Marquez. He himself asking questions. Has he still got it? Is he still capable? Is the old Marc Marquez been handcuffed by the underperforming Honda over the last couple of years? Going into this weekend, is it 800? What was the number? It was an astonishing number the last time that Marc Marquez won a Sunday. 868 days. It'll be on Sunday night since his last victory at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Misano back in 2021. Lewis, it's going to be, we know it's going to be box office. We saw that grin, the cheeky grin after his first stint on the Ducati, didn't we, at the Valencia test. There are then the fastest motorcycles in the world, prototypes built purely at 4 speed. They're nudging about 300 horsepower, aren't they, these days? Incredible performance. There is the track house Aprilia, as you mentioned. Great to see a new team on the grid this year. That's going to certainly ramp up the interest over in America. Looking forward to going to Austin, of course, in just a few weeks' time for what is now round 3 of this year's World Championship. Trying to get accustomed quickly to the 2024 Aprilia is Miguel Oliveira. I'm delighted to say joined Simon now down in pit lane.
Yeah, we're just having a little bit of banter, and I took the opportunity, I probably should have done this years ago, to get Miguel to say his surname correctly, you know, like for me. And it's Oliveira. Is that
Oliveira.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, buddy. We've all been saying it wrong for years. Well, a little bit wrong. Miguel, awesome new colours, by the way, but leathers. I'm not sure about the pink boots. I used to have pink boots, though. I used to, yeah. Anyway, so really like to hear over winter how you prepared? Do you feel, you've got other seasons to compare against? Do you reckon you're in as good a shape as ever? Are you ready?
Yeah, look, I've been having a good winter, really focused on my recovery, because like any other winter, I didn't have any time for holidays or anything like that. So I was just straight to the hospital for surgery, and then back from the hospital to the physio room. And I spent the whole December, January focusing on that. And I think it was kind of good. Mentally, I was already prepared for it. And physically now feel ready to endure all the stress of the season.
Fitness-wise, did you have enough time to build up and feel like you're ready?
Yeah, but like any other rider, I think the feeling is as much you can prepare in the gym or whatever activity you do outside. I think it's more mentally than what actually helps you physically, because at the end of the day, we come and we ride in Sepang. After 3 days, you really start to feel ready, because it's a specific training. It's the muscles that you cannot work in the gym. And I think all of the rest is just mentally nice for you to get prepared for the season. But I don't think it really does much.
I've got two other things I'd like to know. The new machine, do you have, meaning at least aero and changes, do you have some ideas on where to head to make it feel like yours?
Yeah, we kind of hit a little bit the target at the end of the test here in Qatar. The bike has a lot more downforce, so we need to really play a little bit more with the geometry of the bike, to try to set the weight balance in a good way, to use well the tires, to have the bike which is stable, all of the things. We need to tick all the boxes. We didn't have much time left to work on electronics here for Qatar, so I think during the weekend we can still find a little bit of speed.
Last thing, and it's the most important one, tell us, how's the little family?
Yeah, little family is good. It's always, a tough job to raise up two kids at the same time. But I have to say, my wife does almost all the work for me. So I couldn't be happier to have a great partner as Andrea to take care of the kids. So I'm really relaxed and focusing on racing.
Thanks for your time, Miguel. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Miguel Oliveira. Yeah, big year ahead for Miguel, of course. Now he's on that identical kit to Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales. Cashing Mines back, unfortunately, 4 months ago to the Qatar Grand Prix of 2023. Didn't go well for the 29-year-old Portuguese rider, crashing on the first lap of the Tissot sprint, giving a wallop as well to Aleix Espargaro. That left Miguel with a fracture of his right shoulder blade, which is a long recovering injury. Just ask Gennaro Bastianini about that. The Italian suffered the same blow in the opening sprint in Portimao last year. And of course, the legacy of that incident means he's got his work cut out on Sunday night here, Lewis, because he's got a penalty coming his way.
He's going to have to serve a long lap penalty in Sunday night's 22-lap Grand Prix of Qatar. That penalty does not apply to the Tissot sprint, which is at 7 o'clock local time here on Saturday night. The main race on Sunday is at 8 p.m, so make a note of the slightly different times across the two nights. Hoping to perhaps figure in the battle towards the front at the Qatar Grand Prix is Marco Bezzecchi. It's fair to say that pre-season testing ended a lot better than it started. Let's get Marco Bezzecchi's pre-season thoughts with Simon.
Yes, he is. And he's just getting a photo now. Plenty of photos happening. New kit, new leathers, new bike colours. Marco, we're going to start with the most important question. How's your mum?
My mum is okay. My mom is okay. She will come here tomorrow, so she will be here for the first race of the season with my bigger sister as well. So I'm very happy for this.
Super cool. The second most important question: how's the dog? How's your dog?
My dog is very good as well. He's growing. He's very heavy, but he's very young and he loves to play, so it's very difficult to keep him calm, but he's fantastic.
Cool, Marco. You know what? I'm not even going to bother you about all the normal stuff people want to hear about your bike, and I want to wish you best of luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Marco Bezzecchi then, ahead of his third season in the MotoGP World Championship. He'll be going some to take the same step as he made from 2022 to 2023, where he went from 14th in the World Championship to third. One of the star performers, surprise packages, wasn't he, of last season, Marco Bezzecchi. As Lewis mentioned, his first sort of touch with the GP23, which we thought was going to be a transition, silky smooth for the 25-year-old Italian. Struggled somewhat at the opening test in Sepang. Showed more of his normal true potential here at the Qatar test. Marco Bezzecchi, another one to watch as we welcome back to the fold there in your picture a man who has been there, done it and got the T-shirt on more than one occasion. A World Championship winning team boss with both Yamaha and with Suzuki. Great to see him there renewing a friendly chat with Alex Rins. Of course, they worked closely together with Suzuki back in the day. Great signing, what a coup that was for Justin Marks and Trackhouse Racing. He brings a wealth of experience, doesn't he, which is only going to help both Miguel Oliveira and Ralph Fernandez on circuit and just Trackhouse Racing in general off circuit as they prepare to make their debut in the MotoGP World Championship. As we filter back through the grid, this photo is being done in championship order. That's where you've got to go a fair way back to find a Japanese motorcycle. Big year for Honda and Yamaha, having to take full advantage of the performance-enhancing concessions. Sure, I read somewhere in the winter where Honda were planning as many as 22 private test sessions. Stefan Bradl's going to be very, very busy, isn't he? There is Maverick Vinales, and it's great to see on the grid, not in his leathers, as I'm sure he wanted to be, but now bringing all of his wisdom, all of his knowledge and his experience to the living rooms of Spanish fans at home. Great to see Pol Espargaro now part of the DAZN punditry team. And when it was announced that he got the job, I love the tweet reply from his brother Aleix said, make sure you're not too hard on your older brother. But yeah, great to see Pol. Of course, still very much involved inside the garages as well, a dual role really. Multiple tasks I'd imagine this year for Pol, because he's still officially test rider and development rider for KTM and Gas. We expect to see him wildcarding at some point this year. I think he's also been brought on board, Lewis, as a bit of a spotter, a bit of a helper for the likes of Pedro Acosta, and just an aid as well for Brad Binder and Jack Miller. So he might have stepped away a little bit from full-time racing, but he's still going to be a very busy fella in the paddock, is old Pol.
Yeah, while it's sad not to see Pol Espargaro on the grid on a more permanent basis this year, Pol Espargaro admitted late last year that he kind of needed this little break away from full-time racing. It's difficult to overstate just how bad an injury he sustained in the opening weekend of last season in Portimao. His season never really recovered, so it's good to see Pol Espargaro well, good to see him here, and KTM have 6 wild cards potentially to utilise this season. There have been rumours that we might see Dani Pedrosa once again at the Spanish Grand Prix at Jerez, although no official confirmation of that so far, but expect to see Pol Espargaro perhaps 3 or 4 times as we go through the year.
Big change inside the VR46 Academy for 2024. Of course, out has gone Luca Marini. Could not resist the chance. Perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Marini there on the left-hand side of your picture to jump on a factory bike, to put his development skills to the test and have the responsibility of trying to lead HRC out of the doldrums, out of their current slump. Just having a chat there with his VR46 Academy colleagues, Marco Bezzecchi and new world champion Pecco Bagnaia. Now that I'm sure one man, he's always excited going into a new season because he's been here for so long, but I'm sure that excitement has been ramped up just an extra couple of notches because this year he gets to work with arguably the most exciting rookie since this man burst on the scene, Marc Marquez, back in 2013, welcoming into the Red Bull Gas Tech 3 squad his rookie sensation Pedro Acosta alongside Augusto Fernandez. I'm delighted to say Simon is joined by a very familiar and friendly face, Hervé Poncharal.
I am. We're just looking at the bikes, all the new colours and gleaming machinery on and under the lights. It looks, you know, in person, it looks extra awesome. And speaking of extra awesome, I wanted to ask you about your rookie sensation. We've got to start on that, Pedro Acosta.
He's extra awesome rookie rider. No, what to say, you know, there's a lot has been already said and been written during the winter testing. But what can I tell you is we knew we would have a very special rider when Pedro was clear he will be coming with us. But honestly, he has been doing far better than what everybody was expecting. In terms of attitude, behavior, the way he's been handling the bike. I think he's somebody who you don't have to tell him too much. He's physically linked to his bike. He understands technically what the bike needs, how it needs to be ridden. We didn't have to explain him too much. Carbon brake, you have to work in a different way. New tires, even all the tricks, electronics and all the devices. I think, after day one in Valencia, I asked Paul Trevathan, who knows a lot about riders and MotoGP.
Just for the listeners, Paul has come from working with Pole, and now he's an experienced crew chief, and now he's working with Pedro.
He used to be also Miguel Oliveira crew chief, so he knows quite a lot. And after the first day in Valencia, I told him, what would you say? How would you describe Pedro? And he said, he's a sponge. And this is exactly what he is, Every run, every stint he does, he sit down with his engineer, check, and the next run, he starts same speed as the fastest lap of the previous run, and you can see that he's changing everything he's been told to change on the bike. So, he's just fantastic. I don't know what to say because so far, he's done more than expectation.
I want to keep talking and hearing about Pedro, but I think we've got to go to the shop now. Everybody looks ready.
Yeah, sorry to cut off Hervé Poncharal in prime. It's the last thing we wanted to do because he's always a fascinating listen, isn't he? But we can now see the 22 best riders in the world, the 22 fastest riders in the world, the creme de la creme, the elite of the elite, heading into our record-breaking 21-round season, a milestone landmark year for the MotoGP World Championship as we celebrate our 75th anniversary. 13 of the 22 full-time riders starting the new season have won titles in at least one Grand Prix category. 16 of the riders on your screens right now have won at least one race in MotoGP. What a lineup we have. 346 poles have been taken by your 22 riders, 347 wins so far between them. Marc Marquez the highest on 85. They've amassed nearly 900 career podiums between them. Every year we seem to say it. MotoGP comes back bigger, better and stronger than ever before, but it feels like we're fully justified in really ramping it up this year because this does promise to be a blockbuster season, one you are not going to want to miss a single lap of, as we are, less than 24 hours away now from the opening of this year's MotoGP World Championship. There they are then. That is your class of 2024 in the MotoGP World Championship. Roll on the racing, of course. The Tissot Sprint gets us underway in MotoGP here on Saturday night, followed by the full-length feature Grand Prix. The championship then moves from Qatar. We hit Europe for the first time in the Grand Prix of Portugal at the spectacular roller coaster Algarve International Circuit. 17 countries we are due to visit throughout 2024, and we cannot wait to get going. Pecco Bagnaia, the last 2 years, he has been an immovable force at the top of the MotoGP World Championship, trying to become just the 10th rider in history in the Premier Class to win 3 successive titles. Back-to-back successes already mean the Italian is on a fast track to greatness, but there are a lot of very hungry, very motivated and very fast riders who are desperate to take that prize. Johann Zarco, a new challenge for him, of course, this year. From Ducati onto Honda. Maverick Vinales, a former MotoGP winner here in Qatar. Can he get the new season off to a flying start? The Top Gun. Just behind him, a man who knows what it takes to win in MotoGP as well here in Qatar. Enea Bastianini in that emotional victory for the Gresini team in 2022. Gresini Racing, of course, going for the hat-trick here in Qatar. Bastianini taking the checker flag first in 2022. And Fabio Di Giannantonio springing one of the biggest surprises of the season. Last year, he did tell us on the Thursday before last year's Grand Prix, he was here and he expected to win, and he delivered in what was a race that turned out to be pivotal in the final outcome of this year's World Championship. Middle of your picture then, the world champion, Pecco Bagnaia, flanked by his closest rivals last season, Jorge Martin. He wants revenge. He wants revenge on this Qatar circuit as well after his problems, slumping to 10th place in the Grand Prix after a brilliant victory in the Tissot Sprint. Hungry for more success, hoping to go one better in the championship as well this year, and hoping he can convince Ducati that he's worthy of that prized factory seat alongside Pecco Bagnaia. He looks to his left and he'll see Marco Bezzecchi. Can he once again sustain a title challenge deep into this long 21-round World Championship campaign? The sun set a few hours ago here in Qatar, and now we are set for one of the most thrilling, most spectacular MotoGP World Championships we have ever seen. Bagnaia, the clear favourite, Lewis, going into this new season, but you get a feeling he is going to be pushed harder than he has ever been before, and the last two seasons have been far from easy as well.
Yeah, both went down to the wire in Valencia. Pecco Bagnaia fending off Fabio Quartararo in 2022 before holding off what felt like a relentless charge from Jorge Martin late in 2023. Martin will be aiming to go one better, and there's certainly no signs of him getting any slower in the pre-season leading up to this campaign. Enea Bastianini looks much more like the beast that Ducati signed instead of Martin to their factory team at the start of last season. It looks as if Bagnaia will have a battle from within his own factory Ducati team. Marc Marquez, of course, his pedigree is in no question whatsoever. The question is, how quickly can he adjust to life on that Ducati GP23, and can he adapt quickly enough to have a say in the battle for the first victory in the Tissot Sprint in just under 48 hours time on the first Grand Prix on Sunday night. There are subplots and stories from the front of the grid to the back. It is the most competitive and the most star-studded MotoGP field ever, and it all begins tomorrow.
Yeah, can't we just go racing now? Can't we just be done with all this and get free practice underway? The 75th anniversary of the MotoGP World Championship. Ducati, are they going to maintain their iron grip on the MotoGP World Championship? 9 successive Grand Prix victories to finish off what was an historic and record-breaking season for the Bologna factory. They have got a combination of 17 sprints and 17 Grand Prix undefeated. The last time a non-Ducati rider stood on the top step of a podium in a sprint or a Grand Prix, that was Aleix Espargaro when he ran riot in front of his home crowd in Catalonia. Can anybody stop the Bologna Bullets? Can anybody stop Pecco Bagnaia? Jorge Martin and Brad Binder, they're going to be big contenders. Aleix Espargaro, the only non-Ducati rider last year to win more than a solitary Grand Prix, but it was nowhere near enough for the experienced Spaniard and the Nawali factory. 2 riders there who've got big ambitions, big targets for them to be right in the championship mix. And there, Bastianini had a brutally tough 2023, coming back from a couple of big injuries. Of course, 5 laps into the first ever groundbreaking Tissot Sprint, he broke his right shoulder blade, missed a whole bunch of races at the start of the season, injured again in Barcelona. He showed his brilliance once again, though, winning the Sepang Grand Prix, and he's been strong in winter testing at 2 of his favourite tracks in Malaysia and in Qatar. Fabio Quartararo, seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it, since he was crowned world champion in Misano back in 2021. What lies in store for the Japanese manufacturers? They try to recover lost ground on what, over the last couple of years, in terms of the technical battle, has been very much a European-dominated affair, particularly out of Italy. Yamaha winless last year for the first time since 2003. These are the pictures then that will be flooding social media. They'll be flooding the news websites all around the world, as for the first time in 2024, the class of this milestone season are assembled and ready to race for the first time. as we mentioned, it's pretty easy to find Fabio Di Giannantonio and Marco Bezzecchi on the very distinctive fluorescent yellow Pertamina Enduro VR46 racing livery. They are looking skywards. Eyes to the lights, eyes to the stars. Who will be the biggest star in this year's MotoGP World Championship? This young man came so close, didn't he, to history last year. Never in the modern four-stroke era, as an independent team rider, taken the prize. And he came all the way down to that last Grand Prix. An instant involving those two men on your screens right now, which ultimately decided the destiny of last year's title chase, with Pecco Bagnaia covering himself in glory. There was the slam dunk, the 3 championship rings. It has not been very often in the previous 75 years of Grand Prix racing that a rider in the Premier class has won the hat-trick, has gone for the three-peat. Pecco Bagnaia, the big pre-season favourite going into this season opener here in Qatar.
Jorge Martin famously ended the 2023 season in tears after falling short in the final round of the season. He wants this badly. Those 22 riders, from the experienced Aleix Espargaro to the upstart Pedro Acosta, they all have their eyes on one prize, and that prize is the most prestigious and coveted prize in two-wheel motorsport, the MotoGP World Championship. Over 21 Grand Prix and 21 sprints, only one will be crowned champion.
Johann Zarco comes into his first season as a Honda rider, as a Grand Prix winner as well, doesn't he? Who will ever forget the late drama that we saw unfold in Australia, the Phillip Island Grand Prix last October, which was an instant classic, one of the best races of several candidates in that unforgettable 2023 season. Stunning livery, which will look superb tomorrow night under the floodlights here in Qatar. Johann Zarco, modest expectations coming into this season. Says he'll be happy with the top 10 to kick off this new adventure for him. The road to recovery starts in many respects, doesn't it, for Honda and for Yamaha. But standing on the foot pegs, he's our cameraman, he's our world champion, and he's getting the shot of those men who are chasing his crown. They want to sit on the throne which Pecco Bagnaia has held for the last 2 years now. There we go. The thumbs up from Bagnaia. The photographers, the media are happy. And now, thankfully, after all the pre-season build-up, after all the waiting we've done since the end of November in Valencia, we can finally say, this weekend, we go racing. And this is a season packed full of so many stories, so many plots. How many times did the plot twist last season towards the back end of the year, as it went all the way down to Martin versus Bagnaia? What does lie in store in 2024 as well? Does that elusive 9th World Championship beckon for Marc Marquez? Now, of course, part of the Gresini Ducati project. The GP24 has hit the ground running, certainly in the hands of this man, Pecco Bagnaia, who was utterly dominant in both pre-season tests in Sepang and here in Qatar a couple of weeks ago. It's very much a case of catch Pecco if you can, it seems, as we head into the first Grand Prix here this weekend. No disrespect to the Algarve International Circuit in Portimao as well, because they did a phenomenal job of hosting the opening Grand Prix of last year, but there is just something extra special. There's that unique feeling, the special atmosphere you get, the special vibe when we race under the night lights. The first time we've done this pre-season photo shoot under the night lights. It is some spectacle, some late words of encouragement from a man who behind the scenes has done so much work to make the MotoGP World Championship. Yes, we're biased in this commentary box, but it is the greatest motorsport show on earth. I don't care what anybody says, it is. There are the Italians then, the Italian quartet, all of them now on board Ducatis. Well, of course, sorry, I'm forgetting Luca Marini. How can I forget Luca Marini as he moves over to Repsol Honda? But that is a star-studded Italian quintet. Good to see Frankie Morbidelli here, isn't it, as well, after his pre-season concussion woes. Now then, the Ducati Lenovo team have been the team to beat over the last couple of years, Ducati being the manufacturer to beat over the last couple of years. They've certainly got the rider to beat in Pecco Bagnaia. Let's get some thoughts going into round one as they look to continue their dominance of MotoGP. Ducati factory boss Davide Tardozzi joins Simon.
Yes, I'm with Davide Tardozzi right now as some beautiful GP24s are rolling past. Davide, I'm not going to harass you all about the technical stuff as usual, I won't, but I really want to say it's so impressive what your test team have done, you know, what the designers have basically proven, brought to the racetrack, and it worked. You know, I see the exhaust and the aero and the new engine, and it all works, you know, and what the bike has done, it looks like it's moved the goalpost again, making it a nightmare for everyone that's not on one. You must be proud.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very, very proud about the work that the engineers did in Borgo Panigale in Bologna. I guess that they really understood what it was the request from our riders in the end of the season. 2023 bikes is a winning bike, is the world champion bike, but yes, some area where we been able to improve. Pecco especially was very focused to some areas, and he'd been really satisfied after the winter test, Malaysia, and here he did a fantastic job. So lap times was fantastic, but in the end we know that races are another thing. So wait for this race in Qatar, but at least we have to wait half season to see what it will be the growth of our competitor.
Davide, as always, thank you for your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, as always, to Davide Tardozzi. I wonder who's going to give us our celebration gifts and memes this year now is sidekick Paolo Ciabatti. Has not left Ducati course completely, of course. He's heading their new off-road project. We wish Paolo well in his new endeavours, but the celebrations between Tardozzi and Ciabatti, they're part of MotoGP folklore, aren't they? As Pol Espargaro catches a word with his former, well, his lifelong foe in many respects, of course, former Repsol teammates. They had a proper good old duel back in the day, didn't they? In 125s and in Moto2. It's all a bit more friendly now as Pol stands behind the microphone. That is brilliant. That's what we love so much about MotoGP. There's so much camaraderie between current riders, past and present riders. We saw that, didn't we, when the Marquez brothers came to the aid of a stricken and unconscious Frankie Morbidelli at that Portimao production bike test before the serious action got underway in Sepang a few weeks ago. As Pecco Bagnaia then, I was going to say struts away, but he doesn't really strut away from anything, does he, Pecco Bagnaia? He's a much more sort of level-headed character. He has a little word there with Dorna Chief Commercial Officer Dan Rossamondo has been doing so much great work behind the scenes. So that's our photo ops completed for 2024. MotoGP 75th anniversary will be underway in less than 24 hours time. We're open for business at 2 p.m. local time on Friday afternoon, with Moto3 practice with MotoGP FP1 underway at 3:45 p.m. tomorrow. All that's left for us to say is best of luck to all riders and teams competing for glory this year. And from myself, from Lewis, from Simon and all the team, have a wonderful 2024 season. It's going to be a special one. Don't miss a single lap. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you tomorrow.